Hey guys, let's get more news about Warriors, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Warriors nearly traded key member of championship team in offseason, report. Before the Golden State Warriors guaranteed Kevin Looney's $8 million salary for this season, they nearly parted ways with their longest-tenured center and a key member of their last three championship teams. Hoopshype's Michael Scotto reported that the veteran center was discussed in initial trade talks with several teams before returning to the Warriors for the final season of his three-year, $22.5 million contract. Finally, center Kevin Looney drew exploratory trade interest from the Knicks, Thunder, and Grizzlies early this offseason before the organizations pivoted in other directions, Hoopshype has learned. Amid his 10th season of his career, all with the Warriors, Looney has since led the team in rebounding, 7.6, in 14.9 minutes per game, Scotto wrote. Looney is part of Kerr's expanded 12-man rotation that is unusual in today's NBA. With the Warriors losing their last 4 games, Kerr might have to rethink his strategy and shorten his rotation for the players to find their rhythm. Looney's strong rebounding could secure his place in Kerr's rotation moving forward. It's a big turnaround for Looney, who was standing on shaky ground last season. After playing a key role in the Warriors' 2022 championship run, Looney saw his minutes go down as then rookie Tracy Jackson-Davis jumped over him in the rotation. Looney's streak of 290 games played, the second longest in the league, came to an end in the Warriors' 125-122 loss to the Chicago Bulls on Thursday, March 7, at Chase Center. The thing with Loon is he's a great pro, Kerr said on the Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game on March 8. The streak, what it represents is what's really important, that he's available every single night. The number is just the number. And he's ready. We're going to need him again for sure. We're going to need him against certain matchups in the playoffs. I know what he can do and I know how professional he is. And having said all that, I feel terrible about breaking that streak because I know it meant a lot to him. Kerr revealed at that time the difficult talk he had with Looney. We talked about this. Last week I went to Loon and talked to him about Tracy Jackson-Davis taking over that role, Kerr said on the Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game on March 8, and I told him how much pride that I have in his streak, and I knew how much pride he had and I had a similar one as a player that I took great pride in. But, the bottom line for me is, we've committed to giving those minutes to Tracy, and it didn't feel right to me to just for the sake of the streak, throw Loon out there for a couple of minutes. I didn't think that was fair. It's almost patronizing in a lot of ways. With Draymond Green doubtful for their December 3 road game in Denver, Looney could see increased minutes as the Warriors try to get back on track against 3-time NBA MVP Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. Green experienced left calf tightness as he skipped the Warriors' practice on December 2. I would call it doubtful, Kerr said, per NBC Sports Bay Area. We got to be careful. Doubtful tomorrow, we'll see how it holds up. If Green misses time, Kerr will have to rely on Jackson-Davis and Looney to defend Jokic. Kyle Anderson, who only logged 7 minutes in their last game, could also benefit from Green's likely absence. Commentary: Warriors didn't solve their biggest problem and they can't ignore any longer. The Golden State Warriors' strength in numbers motto was all well and good in October and early November. Then the numbers started whittling down, the league wised up, and the problem the Warriors never solved began rearing its ugly head once again. After a red-hot start to the season, the Dubs have lost 5 straight games. That number 1 seed in the Western Conference this team held 10 days ago? That's gone. In fact, the Warriors now are a play-in tournament team in the standings. Tuesday's loss to the Nuggets was the perfect encapsulation of the slide. Down Draymond Green, calf injury, the Warriors played hard and were beating Denver by 11 with a little over 6 minutes to play. When Jonathan Kuminga dunked in transition on a beautiful feed from Curry to put the Warriors up 111-103 with 4:32 to play, the Warriors had to feel good about seeing the contest through. That was the last basket scored by someone who was not Curry. And Curry only scored 4 points, making only 2 of 10 shots and missing all 5 three-pointers down the stretch as Denver scored 16 on 80% shooting in the final 270 seconds to lift the Nuggets to a 119-115 win. The Warriors missed Green on the defensive side and didn't have anyone to help Curry. They faded in the moments when the cheese became more binding. Consider it a trend. And it's one that will continue unless the Warriors address the issue in the trade market by acquiring a viable number 2 offensive option to play next to Curry. The problem there is that this past offseason was the best time to buy such a player. The Warriors passed, overvaluing already overrated players in a trade and opting to keep the Dubs roster together. That looked great early this campaign when the games were treated as meaningless. Now that teams are merely starting to try and the Warriors roster isn't as deep as it was in October, this looks like a colossal mistake, and it will be expensive to fix now. But it has to be fixed, and the solution is not on the current roster. Last Wednesday against Oklahoma City, the Dubs didn't have Curry, but had a 3-point lead with 5:45 to play. The Warriors shot 2 for 17 down the stretch to lose that game. Last Monday, against the Nets, the Dubs missed 3 of 6 free throws and couldn't keep up with Brooklyn's offense in the final 5 minutes. A 1-point margin with 5:26 to play turned into an 8-point loss. And against the Spurs on November 23, the game that started this losing streak, the Warriors choked away a 9-point early fourth-quarter lead, with the game being tied with 4:25 to play. The Warriors shot 1 for 8 the rest of the way, with Curry making the only basket and his teammates going 0 for 5 in what would be a 10-point loss. NBA mock trade allows Warriors to add help on wings amid swirling rumors. The Golden State Warriors flashed a brilliant start to the season, only to have their recent 5-game losing streak undo a lot of that success. The team is now looking for answers on how to bolster their championship push. After off-season rumors linked the Warriors to the likes of Paul George, Lauri Markkanen, and others, nothing materialized. However, they are still positioned to do damage on the trade market when the opportunity presents itself. A name that should be available before this year's NBA trade deadline is New Orleans Pelicans forward Brandon Ingram. The former All-Star has been involved in trade rumors dating back to the offseason. With the Pelicans involved in a nightmarish start to the 2024-25 NBA season, it should not surprise anyone if they are sellers before the deadline. Ingram is on an expiring contract and is set to hit unrestricted free agency in the 2025 offseason. If he is not a part of the future plans for the Pelicans, one would imagine New Orleans would look to recoup some sort of value for the star forward. Speaking of value, Jonathan Kuminga has experienced a noteworthy decline in that category. The potential breakout candidate has failed to live up to expectations in the 2024-25 season. The lack of a rookie extension for Kuminga and his decreasing value could force the Warriors to re-evaluate his fit amid one last push for a championship in the Stephen Curry era. A mock trade between the two sides could include the Warriors sending Kuminga, DeAnthony Melton, Kevin Looney, and Gary Payton II in exchange for Ingram and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. The swap allows the Warriors to add another all-star caliber player around Curry. Meanwhile, the Pelicans land a worthwhile young prospect and a handful of expiring contracts. One could argue that Golden State would need to add some sort of draft pick compensation too, but given Ingram's modest value, Kuminga may offer more than enough appeal to not have to do so. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Brandon Ingram? Leave your opinion in the comments.